Hi, welcome to another porch therapy session. My name is Bruce, for those who haven't been here before. I worked for the same company for over 35 years, and due to budget cuts, I, along with about another 100 people, were laid off. That's just another part of the way things are today. As an older worker, I did feel targeted. And I talked about that in my last video, so if you haven't seen that, you can check that out, and a lot of other of my videos. But I created this channel to talk about these things, amongst other things, as a older person, and whatever this is for me. I'm not sure if I'm retired or if I'm going to go back to work or what, but that's what I'm trying to work out here. So let's start this session. I got a lot of comments on my last video, which was about, I focused it on age and how I felt like older people are being targeted, being replaced by younger workers who are less expensive. But I think companies are really losing a lot of the loyalty that the older workers brought. I enjoyed my job. I was there for 35 years. I felt a lot of loyalty to the company, which they did obviously not return to me. I mean, they brushed me away like I was an annoyance. So there's a lot of bitterness there. I admit to that, even though there were a lot of good things about my job. I enjoyed my job, and I'm grateful for, the time and that I was there and everything. But two things can be true at once. I can be very bitter about how it ended and still grateful for the work and the benefits that I had. So, I'm torn between those things. I did have a really good comment from a subscriber that has commented on a lot of things, and I really appreciate it. But they said something that I wish I had thought of, and I asked if I could bring it up. So this is kind of a follow-up to that previous video, and I'm going to go with that. And I did print it out so that I wouldn't try to butcher it from my memory, which is getting worse all the time. But anyway, they said, in addition to the cost savings, they were really because this person went through similar to what I had. They really are trying to kill off long-term institutional memory, as older workers, including them and me, are the ones who are more militant because of knowledge and expertise, and will tell the boss if they are trying to do something that doesn't make sense, doing something stupid. And I was guilty of that. I did push back because I wanted things to be done not necessarily my way, but I always pushed for the right way. With that experience, I had seen things being done successfully and things done incorrectly. I mean, you learn from that. And so I tried to keep us from making mistakes, and I would speak up. I tried to do it as carefully as possible. Not always. It depended on who I was talking to. If I felt like I could be a little bit more aggressive in my talk, but mostly, I didn't want to repeat the mistakes, and I didn't want to go off track from, where we had been successful. So I did speak out, and maybe they got tired of that. Maybe they think we don't need that old school thinking. I understand that, but you still have to have thinking, and I'm not sure they always do that. One of the things that I was always talking about, and again, that could have been another reason they laid me off, because I talked about risk. I was big on being careful what we were doing, not to risk, our good name, because as a government contractor, and I think that's this way in any business, you're only as good as your reputation. And we had built up a great reputation with a lot of our clients, a lot of the people that we worked with in government. They respected our work. But good news travels much slower than bad news. And I was always telling people that we had to be on game all the time, that we couldn't slack off, we couldn't make changes. Um, I I've mentored a few people because I've been there so long. They would say, take this person on travel with you, and they can help you. Well, there were several that felt like they had great ideas, and they may have been. Problem was, they would just start to do them, and I would pull them aside and say, I'm not against change. I'm all for improvement. I'm really big on looking at an issue and saying, yeah, we're doing this well, but we can do this and make it even better. I'm fine with that. I'm not always right. I'm looking for the best way to do something. But if I've been doing something and it's been working for 10, 15, 20 years, don't come in and change it without talking to me first, especially when I'm still responsible for it. And that's what some of the younger people and even some that were closer to my age came in. And I understand they were trying to make their mark. Oh, look what I did. Yeah, but I'm still responsible for it. And I would say, come and talk to me. We'll look at the changes, but don't make changes on site without thinking about all the consequences. And I had some that did that. Um, I would give them a task and they would go and do it differently because they thought, oh, I can fix this. I'd already been through a lot of that stuff. And not that it couldn't be better, but, I had experienced things and I knew. So changing things just for changing or thinking you're going to be a hero of some kind isn't always the right answer. In fact, it's almost never the right answer. You've got to look at processes and look at risk and evaluate them and practice and say, okay, what could go wrong? And they didn't look at it that way. So, learning from that, I talked a lot about risk. I said, we have to be very careful because we make mistakes while doing something that's customer facing that could affect the customer, make them look bad. Then we're not doing our job and it's going to hurt us in the long run. And like I said, bad news travels fast in any business, but I know in government agencies, you could do the best thing and they could tell you, oh, we really appreciate what you did. They don't go send emails to all their other coworkers and other divisions and other agencies and say, these guys are great. You've got to use them. But you make a mistake, the news spreads like wildfire. Something happened at a meeting and I can't remember what it was because I wasn't there. But when I got to a meeting with another customer, they brought it up because they had heard about it. So risk was really a vital thing. In management 20 years ago, it was a big thing. Even 15 years ago, they understood that. And now it's less about that and more about we just gotta be innovative, which is not a bad thing. I'm not trying to say innovative is a bad word. I'm saying you have to be careful on how you innovate and what you do and any changes you make. So, yeah, that could be why older workers, it's like, oh, you're old, you're slow, you don't want to change. We've learned. There's lessons that we've learned, sometimes hard lessons. I mean, there are mistakes I've made I will never forget. Even though I'm out of the business now, I still apply those things to my life. And I think a lot of older workers, older people, we don't want to make the same mistakes over and over again. And we don't want people in our business or people we know to make those mistakes. We try to tell them so that they can learn and not do that. If I tell somebody, hey, I did that once and it didn't work at all, try this, and they ignore me, that's on them. But I do think there's a good possibility that, management just doesn't want that kind of thinking anymore. Well, obviously, I had to come in off the porch. There was some noise going on in the neighborhood that made it a little crazy to do the video, so I thought I'd step in here and finish this up because I was close to the end. I'm sure you're grateful for that. But I did want to finish up and say, I think a lot of companies are going for the high risk model, high risk, high reward. Certainly, some logic in that if you want to do that. But there's also with that high risk, high potential failure. So it's a choice. And a lot of companies do that. A lot of people do that in their lives. That's fine. I'm personally not a high risk person. That's just the way I think. And the management style that I appreciated for years was not high risk. It was stability. The world is changing. Corporate structure, business structure, life is changing. Stability isn't what it used to be. I found that out. I still like a stable home life. I still like a stable mental capacity. I try to, balance things out in my life. And, I talk about these things on here so that I can go out and live my life. So I'm going to finish this up. And I hope you got something out of it. And I would love to hear your take on, the ageism thing. Do you think it's real? Do you think they just want to get rid of our voices? Is it all about cost, or is it a mix of all of it? I'm kind of leaning that way. It's a mix of all the things. You cost too much, you're opinionated on how things ought to be. It's all of that. So we'll end the session here. I hope if you like this, you will like, subscribe, share it. I am trying to build my channel, and I appreciate you watching. I appreciate all those who comment and have subscribed. It means a lot to me. So thank you very much. And as always, please take care of yourself and take care of those you love. That's what really matters. With that, I'll talk to you next time.